day to one and all. Welcome and welcome back to yet another episode of Sometimes the Old Man is Right. As usual, I am your host, Lamont Ferguson, playing the role of the old man. It's a new version of the old man. I'm going to go new and improved because it is a post-COVID, recovered, out of isolation version of host. That's what I am now. I'm telling you, I'm so happy to be out of isolation. When I got cleared by the medical staff, they're going to say, hey, wear your mask and take it easy. Like, I went Hobbs and Shaw on them. Look at me. I'm Black Superman. So this is it. It's the Black Superman version of host Lamont Ferguson, hosting the podcast. How are you? How you guys been? Did you have a good week? I hope it was good. Hope it was a fantastic week. What is the good word? My week, well, I know you asked, and thank you. I appreciate you asking. Was good because I am out of isolation. Couldn't wait. Counted down the hours, counted down the days. If you follow me on the social media, you'll saw that I made some silly videos about me getting out, and I couldn't be happier. But here is one of the weird things about it. And by the way, this is episode number 17 of Sometimes the Old Man is Right. Episode 17. You know what this allows me now? We are now allowed to get into R-rated movies. That's what we are. I know that's not a thing anymore. But let me tell you, when I was a kid, that was a big deal because it seemed like they were very strict about that. And you wanted to make sure that you didn't get embarrassed with your friends. So you figured out a way to talk fast or hang out, like hang behind actual adults that were getting their tickets to get in. So you could just kind of say once they were out of earshot that, hey, I'm with them type of deal. But I remember there being a lot more pressure and a lot more stress on trying to get into an R-rated movie under the age of 17. Like, I don't even know if you asked a kid today if they go, hey, how old do you have to be to get into an R-rated movie? They just like, what? I don't think there is an age. You just have to be a money age. I have to be admission. What is it? I don't even know what it is to get into a movie these days for a student. 850. I have to be 850 age to get into an R-rated movie. But back then, my goodness, a lot of stress. I remember I saw Porky's. Remember Porky's? Porky's, one of these ridiculous, as they always say, coming of age movies. Just a bunch of, look, let's be honest about Porky's and all those movies. It's just a bunch of white folks acting insane. I recently saw a scene from Porky's, and I remembered the movie. I didn't remember a lot about the movie, but I watched this scene and I was like, this is horrible. Everything about it is offensive in this movie, and racist, for crying out loud. But those were movies then. Those were the movies to see back then. But Porky's was a big deal to go and watch this thing. And I remember so much stress. My friend was a senior, so he obviously was 17, so he'd get in. But man, I remember that stress of getting up to the box office and paying for my ticket. And I thought, oh, I know they're going to say no. And now going to the movies, I realize they don't care. That person on the other side, they don't care. They just don't. I buy senior tickets all the time because they're cheaper. Nobody's questioning me. No one. One, it would seem, today's day and age, it'd seem insulting if you question a person. Hey, I need to see your ID. Why? Because I don't seem like I'm old enough to get this discount. What do you care about the discount? You make the monies on the popcorn. What does it matter to you about the ticket prices? Anyway, I've almost have forgotten what I was talking about because I got sidetracked by the 17th. But 17 is the age of the podcast. 17th episode. So let's get to my escape, shall we? That's what I like to call it. My escape from Shawshank and the isolation. Last episode, I gave you the rundown as to what the conditions were and stuff like that. They remained the same. The medical staff just did what they do, and then once I was able to just be released, it's a weird thing because I thought that the process of being released would be something more, I don't know, something with more fanfare, because there was a lot of fanfare to get me in that room. I thought that there'd be a little bit more fanfare to get me out of the room, like an escort, and there was no conga line, but you know what I'm saying. But at least an escort to say, okay, now you can go out, and maybe more hazmat suits, and then put me into the clean area and instructions. And there really wasn't. There was a phone call that came at 9:30 in the morning that said, you're scheduled for release at 4:30, which also is odd. Like, why not just release then? If the day is the day, and I've already been in there for 10 days, and I had COVID, is the 7 hours going to make a difference? I'm counting down the hours. Is the COVID that is in my system also counting down hours? I don't think so. I think it's gone by that point in time. If it's not gone in 9 days and 17 hours, then I'm pretty sure that we're all doomed. So that was the odd part, is counting down the hours. And let me let you in on a little secret. I left early because there was no escort. It was just the nurse saying, you're scheduled to leave at 4:30, so at 4:30 you can leave. And I waited until I could. I wanted to shoot some video, which required me being out of the room. And so I left 2 hours early and then just sat in my room. After shooting the video around no one, I sat in my room for the remaining 2 hours, and then I freely walked out as if they were monitoring me. Like, oh, we got to make sure this guy can only come out at 4:30, which makes no sense because there was a point in time during the 10 days where they didn't even know that I was still in the room. They thought I had left. They thought they had transferred me out to another ship, and I was still in the room. But this is how my head works, because I'm a guy that speaks up. I'm a guy that's a little, could be problematic at times in situations, but I'm also a guy that weirdly follows the rules, or at least tries to as best I can until I can justify the reason for me not. How about that? That's the best way of putting it. Until I can justify a reason why I shouldn't follow the rules, I will follow the rules. But keep in mind, all that time in my head, I'm looking for an out. So I got out of the room, and it was nice to be out. It was weird to be out. I did have a weird feeling. There was an odd type of feeling of while I was out, to kind of be afraid of people. I was like Nell, if you know that reference, where I was raised in the woods. I really don't know. I know the gist of the movie. I may have seen the movie. I'm not really sure. But that's what I felt like. I felt like I have a fear of people, having not seen people for 10 days. And it was that. And then the feeling of when you're out, like a Shawshank thing, where I just wanted to carve Brooks was here and go back into isolation. There is also a weird thing, and I was beginning to think it was in my head, but then it was confirmed that it wasn't. There's again a stigma with this illness of COVID, where you feel like it was your fault, and it wasn't your fault, obviously. but others don't know how to react to you. So I also know that once I was out on top of the ship, walking around the deck, and then I saw a couple of staff members who, obviously I had known prior to going into the hole. And I was kind of excited. I wasn't too excited to run up as if, it's a, hey, did you guys miss me type of deal. I just wanted to say, hey. And one of the gentlemen who I said hey to, I went over to give a little fist bump to, and he left me hanging. And then I wanted to do an elbow tap, and he still left me hanging. So it was a weird moment on my part where it was like, oh, a fist bump? No. Elbow tap? Okay, no. All right, nothing? All right, good. And you felt a little Hester Prynne. It was a little scarlet lettery. And he did talk to me, and he did say that he's, welcome back, and I'm glad that you're out and stuff like that. And stuff. But everyone did have that feeling, that everyone gave you that standoffish type of, ooh, I'm wearing the Scarlet C on my chest because he was in isolation and he had COVID. And it was odd. So I learned very quickly from that first interaction that this was going to be the case. And I made sure I tamped down any expectation of talking to anyone, and also that there would be any type of big welcome back and, oh my goodness, we're glad you're back type of deal. So I figured, okay, what we're going to do is I'm performing the next night after I got out, and then we'll just go from there. Because once I perform, then it'll be, oh, okay, there he is. That's Lamont. That's the guy that was before. And then they forget. And that's exactly what took place. And this is all, like I said, psychological, with the stigma that is associated with this pandemic and this illness, and everyone that I even see online that talks about, oh, I don't want it. I make sure I don't want it. And no one wants it. I think I've already gone over this. No one wants to be any type of sick. Cold, flu, allergies. No one wants to be. But this is the only one that has that stigma of, oh, you got it. I don't know how to react to you or around you thing. You get it. And by the way, and also, oh my goodness, I almost forgot. I didn't write these down in my notes. If you've not been following any part of news, I've tried not to follow a lot of news, but once you start following a particular news, then you start getting into the algorithm of following that news, and that's what the alerts you get. How about shout out for me, huh? Pat on the back for me and the podcast of two of the items that I had been speaking about coming true. One, the CDC lifted the sanctions for the sailing, and actually came out and said good things about sailing and cruising. Sailing sounds like it was a yacht club, is what it is. That's why in my head I said sailing. That doesn't sound like us, but yeah, that's what it's called. It's sailing. But yeah, about cruises. The CDC finally came out and said, you know what? They are doing everything that they can be doing. Oh, like I ranted about 2 episodes ago that the cruise industry has been doing. And finally lifted the sanctions on the limited amount of sailing that goes on. And I thought, oh, yeah, so finally they decided to come through, because whoever that one jackass is, I'd have been more happy had they said, and by the way, that person's been fired. But they didn't. But, they did the next best thing, which was stop bad-mouthing cruising. To stop bad-mouthing cruising, because cruising, they're doing whatever they can to do what? Keep the train moving. So I took credit for that. And I should. With my railing against the CDC, that they finally listened up and went, you know what? Sometimes the old man is right. That's what they did. That's exactly what they said. And the second thing that came true, of direct result of me, Black Superman. was many doctors, including Fauci, have finally come out and said this is going to be like the seasonal flu. This is what it's going to be. Fauci came out and said that we're not going to get rid of it, which is what I've been saying for a bit of time now. Because if you were trying to get rid of it, then you'd have found a different angle to use to get rid of it. And it's at a point now where you have to learn to live with it. And it will eventually become like the seasonal flu. That was the headline. Again, I took credit for that because I should. So those are the things that took place whilst I was walking around for the week out of isolation. And technically not a week, because even last Sunday, I was still in isolation. I didn't clear isolation till Wednesday. Came back to work. It was very nice to get back to work. It was fun. And I pause because it was fun in a surprising way. The passenger load on this particular leg of this cruise, which all the legs are same. It's San Diego to Mexico and then returning, except for this leg. But that's too confusing. I'll get to that in a second if I could stop interrupting myself. This passenger load, 90% Mormons. There's like 1,000 people on board, and 900 of them are Mormons. So that was a little interesting. The first show, and I knew what it was going to be ahead of time because I knew the passenger load prior to this. They told me who's coming on to the ship. And so I kind of had an approach. I've done a dry bar special, that Amazon special that some of you may have watched. It is a dry bar special, and Dry Bar is a company that, in essence, produces and promotes clean comedy for Mormon areas, is what it is. They may now move into the Midwest and the Bible Belt and stuff for people that really want clean comedy, but they are two Mormon gentlemen that started this company that would start doing stuff in Utah. And so that's where they are aired. And then they eventually would sell some of the specials off to Amazon Prime, and mine was one of those specials. So I kind of had an idea going in what was expected, what needed to be done for the audience. And it was great. It went very well. Tried the trilogy again. The trilogy is always different because the stars, quote unquote, stars of the show are always going to be different cast of characters. There is something interesting about that took place, but that show, the first show, was great. Good to be back. Excellent. It made other people who see me, staff members, able to remove the Scarlet C from my chest and just be Lamont again. The difference was on the second night of the trilogy. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, there's 3 shows that I do each week on the ship. That's it. That's the workload. The workload is 90 minutes, and I've earned that right to work all of 90 minutes. So I don't want to hear your complaints, because you weren't there when I was driving through backyards in winter in Alberta, Canada, trying to find the address of the gig, knocking on people's doors, random people's doors, asking for the address to the gig because there was no GPS. So yeah, I've earned this through many years, and Rock Springs, Wyoming, and all these other things. So I don't want to hear it. I work 90 minutes a week. Get off me. What I've decided to do on these shows is I do a trilogy. It is 3 sets, 3 separate different sets. You can get the jokes if you don't go to the preceding show. because they're just jokes, but there is an underlying theme. There's a connection between the sets. I will refer back to something that took place in one of the previous sets. That's how the sets work. It's a trilogy, and people get to be made stars for the week on the ship because they're people that I've spoken to, not in the manner of, making fun of them, but it's just natural and flow. So that's how it works on the trilogy. Well, the second part of the trilogy, this was different because the first week it was good. The second week it was good. The third week I was in isolation. So I don't know how to judge that one. The fourth week, which was this past week, it was weird. It was unexpected, because what I was not expecting at all was that none of the stars, quote unquote stars, people that I talked to, which included young people, returned to the second show. None of them. Zero amount of them. I go out expecting, hey, I'm going to talk to this person, that person, and none of them were there. So it was very interesting because I was continuing a conversation to an audience. For the most part, 95% of them were not there for the front end of the conversation. So that was very interesting. And it taught me something about the trilogy that I have to kind of go back into the lab and rework it just in case that might happen, which is odd because I was more prepared for flamingos. If there were flamingos in the audience, I'd have thought that would have come up before none of the quote unquote stars of the first show would return to the second show that was on the very next night. But it is the Mormon folks, and they've got their routines. And the cruise director, when I mentioned that, he goes, well, you got to remember that you went on a half hour earlier than you did the night before. And that made a difference because they all go to dinner at a certain time, and that routine is not to be messed with. And by the way, let me mention something about the folks here tonight, not tonight, but all week here. They've been delightful. Like I said, it's been interesting to observe them, but they've all been delightful and polite, just a bit reserved, as you would expect from folks, from Mormons on the ship. But these are things I've learned. I don't know if anyone knew this, but they prefer not to be called Mormons anymore. In 2018, they decided, an announcement came down saying, we're going to go with either LDS or Latter-day Saints to replace Mormon, which to me was fascinating because I have never known of any religion to go with rebranding. Right? There's a lot of religions that should consider rebranding, but I've never seen one that was so forward thinking that they go, like whatever it is, elders sitting in a room going, hey, we talked to the focus group and they don't like the name and we're going to rebrand the whole name. So I was fascinated by that, and I told them about that, and eventually they did have a sense of humor about it. I had to mention that I'm not making fun of their faith. I'm making fun of the idea and the perception from the outside. And then they got it. They understood it. But I was really surprised and maybe a little delighted on that angle, to discover that angle, that they decided to go with LDS and Latter-day Saints, which I was telling them that I like it. I like it a lot because it gives them a certain amount of street cred. That's what it does. Mormons, everyone knows what that is. You load up the image in your head. Mormons, it's a short sleeve white shirt, tie, bicycle. Yeah, we get it. But Latter-day Saints, that's a gang. That sounds like a gang. That sounds gritty, like it's in the gritty part of Baltimore, or it's on the wire, right? Latter-day Saints. This is Latter-day Saints territory. You got to, Elijah wants his money. That's what it feels like when you say Latter-day Saints. So that is impressive. Very impressive. LDS, those are initials on black satin jackets and that cholo writing. I don't even know if that's offensive. But you get the image, what I'm talking about, that LDS type of deal. It's impressive. So there's something I learned. So they prefer not to be Mormons. Now, it's not like it's a thing where it's, if you call them Mormons, like it's the N-word thing, because that's a trend that we like to do now. It's not that. It's just that, hey, we like a new phrase. And that's the phrase. The phrase is, or the title is Latter-day Saints, which I said, it's tough. Gives them toughness. In the order and ranking of tough groups of religion, Latter-day Saints has to sit towards the top. It really does. It's got to be tougher than Jehovah's Witnesses, because that sounds like they don't even want to be involved. They're witnesses. They're just nearby. Saints are in the fight, right? Saints are definitely in the battle. Witnesses, they're like, look, we don't want to be involved, but I'll tell you what I saw. That was part of the thing that took place dealing with this interesting crew load, or crew load, passenger load, sorry. So, as I said, Mexico and back. Now, to clarify that, when I get back into San Diego today and we say goodbye to these folks, I always keep saying we dump the passengers off, and then we realize that's a little rude, is what it is. It is a little rude. Even though it is what happens, it's a little rude. We say goodbye to the passengers. See, this is what post-COVID Lamont is. He's nicer. He's a little bit more considerate. And I give this another week. So we say goodbye to the passengers, and then we get some more passengers on. And what we will do then is head out to Hawaii. That's where we're going. And that will be the final destination for yours truly. Because once we get to Honolulu, I will get off of this ship, head right to the airport, and fly back home. And that will be the end of this contract. So it will have been 5 weeks, a little bit over 5 weeks. And it was nice to be back home on Holland America, which, that is home. I enjoyed my time on Celebrity, but Holland is home. I think I've said this before. They leave me alone. Celebrity left me alone too. I like that too. But that's what means something to me, is to have that type of respect, to say, look, we know Lamont will do his job. I don't have to be tinkering in his act. I don't have to have my nose in there and saying, hey, maybe you shouldn't say this or maybe you shouldn't say that. They just leave me alone. We trust that he's going to make the right decisions. That means everything to me, because I'm doing my best to try and make the right decisions. And that is what Holland has done, and that is Team Holland. That's why I am Team Holland. So that ends that commercial for them. And that's heartfelt. That has nothing to do with, I'm saying it because Holland America listens to the podcast. No, if I said it, I mean it. That's how it works. So we're off to Hawaii. Stop in Catalina. 4 sea days follow that to Hawaii. And then we're done. I also had a pleasant time with I had a pleasant time the weeks prior with Mike Siegel, who was the other comedian on board, and that was fun hanging out with him. And then Dan Gabriel came on this week. And so, other than me being in isolation for Sunday up until Wednesday, it was very nice to hang out with Dan. Dan, I've known a little bit more than Mike going in, so it was very cool and an enjoyable time hanging out with Dan. And Dan leaves later today once we get into port. It is Sunday, by the way. You guys realize it. I'm taping on Sunday. It is on Sunday. It'll be released on Sunday. You'll hear it on Sunday. You know the drill until we get back to Fridays. But yeah, it'll be a little sad that Dan leaves because I enjoyed hanging out. I enjoyed our time together. I'm not sure who comes on next week, but it'll be nice. As I said, I do want to get back into that theater. I do like the old format of being in that theater. And if you want to put both comics in the theater on different nights, that would be great if Holland gets back to that. For the meantime, we'll deal with the new format and enjoy the upside of not being in the theater, which is the ability to hang out with another comic that is on board, which didn't necessarily happen a lot on the other format because you were either with a singer or with a ventriloquist or any other type of entertainer that wasn't a comedian. It's a little different hanging out with comics. So I'll cherish that. I'll enjoy that until you put me back in the theater where I belong. All right. So that was the week. I believe that has caught you up on everything that has taken place in that particular week and the return. So this week I will do the trilogy again, and we'll see how that works. I'll be prepared this time in case none of the stars return. I have a couple of options. One is to retool a completely B-side second set, or to just catch the audience up on what's gone on. Now, I've been staunchly against that because my thought is be at the first show. Simple as that. Be at the first show, and then you'll be able to see what goes on. But I may have to acquiesce a little bit, make a little compromise to where I will briefly catch them up without going and telling the same jokes. So we'll see. It'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing how this works. Most likely it'll just go back to how it was before, where the stars have returned and everything will be as is. I did look at a note that I thought was kind of funny. Remember on the last episode when I started and I said it's a very special episode and talked about how in the 70s we used to have all these special episodes of things. Even in the 80s there were special episodes of and how they always dealt with serious issues. And one of the examples I gave was a bedwetting. Like, whatever happened to that? Like that was a serious issue back in the 70s. That was a kid wetting the bed. Like, we had to get to the bottom of why the kid was wetting the bed, that we had very special episodes about the show. Here's the thing about it. When those shows would go, it would give me a level of stress and anxiety because I don't believe that I was wetting the bed. But then it was a point where it's like, oh my goodness, I don't want to wet the bed. It was almost like it felt like something that was going to happen. Like, because if it was this big of a problem, then it was going on with everyone. And so when I would watch those, I would think, oh no, that's going to happen to me. I don't want that to happen to me. But bedwetting, anyone else remember that bedwetting seemed to be a huge problem back in the 70s. And I don't know what has happened to it because I have kids. And by the way, kids are still wetting the bed. So why don't we have a special episode? Like, was there no other things that we could talk about? Like, they put it up on the list, the pressing episodes, and bedwetting was a pressing issue that we had to have television shows deal with. Like I said, kids are still doing it. They're still doing it. But doesn't seem to be a thing that anyone really, a pressing matter anymore. But back in the 70s, good grief. Like I said, stressing me out. I'd look at my classmates differently. I'm like, oh, are they wetting the bed? Which one of these is the bedwetter? But there was a stigma on it. I think Sarah Silverman even talks about it, saying that she was a bedwetter when she was a kid. And it was very stressful and a big, like I said, a stigma with that. Anyway, that was just a point I wanted to bring up that kind of made me giggle. Something did interesting happen in the news. Let me go over some of that. This is going to be, hopefully this is a less ranty, angry episode, and we're kind of returning to more humor and observation stuff now that I've gotten through the COVID thing, and now that the CDC has decided to agree with me, now that the doctors and Fauci have decided to agree with me, I can, bring it down. I can bring down the level to maybe a 6. I think 6 is as low as I go, to tell you the truth. When I wake up in the morning, 0 to 10, yeah, I think you're looking at a 5. I start every day with a 5. So, yeah, I think 6 is pretty good. 6 is pretty good because it don't go any lower. This is like every day I'm starting at the DEFCON that's in the middle. Like I don't even know how do it's the DEFCON. I know it's 1 to 5, but is 5 bad and 1 good, or 1 bad and 5 good? And are we ever at good? Like whatever the lowest thing is, are we ever at that? I don't think there would be a time when we would ever be at that. So therefore, why do we have those other numbers? You know what I'm saying? Like, why do we have those levels that are never achievable as being part of the scale? Because I don't even know what we're at right now. Anyone know what DEFCON we're at right now? I don't know. I'm going to have to look it up, and then I'll look it up, and then I'll talk about it the next episode, maybe, if I remember, because that's how I have information. I don't do the research ahead of time. I just give questions and homework. And then I go, oh, by the way, this is what happened last week. I already told you on the episode 1, I don't know what I'm doing. That I told you 17 episodes ago. I don't know what I'm doing. Nor do I really. I just have an outline as to how I'm going to talk about stuff. And then I just kind of talk until I'm out of words. Sometimes there just aren't enough rocks. Right, Forrest? So, yeah, I don't know what level we're at. But anyway, we're on our way back to San Diego. I'm sure you guys saw that there was an underwater volcano eruption near Tonga. And so all day yesterday, the entire West Coast was under a tsunami advisory. And if you've seen my act, you know that I'm really, even if you hear me talk, it has nothing to do with my act. It's just me in general. If you see my act, or if you see me not on stage, I really have a problem with stupid people. And people go, hey, well, who makes that call as to what stupid people are? I make that call. I make the call because I'm gauging against myself. And here's the weird thing about it. I view myself as average. Now I know I'm not. I'm not. I'm decently intelligent, if that's a modest way of putting it. I am decently intelligent, but I'm grading against everything else. Because I know for a fact if I was in Japan or China or Great Britain, Europe, I would be average. I would be average. But in America, I am a goddamn genius, is what I am. Because we are grading on the worst curve in America in the history of curves. So even when I see comics go up and they talk about stupid people, I hear them talk and I go, dude, in my world, you're on that other side. Seriously. I know you want to go up here and rant and rave about how you hate stupid people, but I've heard you talk, and up against me, you're in the other side. Really, you're with those people in my book. That's how it works. So we're under tsunami advisory, entire West Coast, and this is how I know that we're doomed, because the San Diego County official Twitter account put up that there is an advisory, a tsunami advisory, and they told the details. And at the very end, the last sentence says, Do not go to the coast to view the tsunami. Do not go to the coast to view the tsunami. They had to put those words there for people, for adult people who can read, people who are functioning, people who can vote. They found it necessary to put those words to not head to the coast to view the tsunami. I'm just going to pause and let that sink in, that those were words from an official blue check mark Twitter site, San Diego County's official Twitter. Do not go to the coast to view the tsunami. My thought is, one, they had to have a little moment where they said, should we put that? Should we put that? And everyone went, yeah, you definitely should put that. You absolutely should put that, because people need to see that. Now, they'll ignore it, but at least we, on our side, can absolve ourselves from any accountability from the stupid. Because I saw pictures and people were heading down to the coast to view the tsunami, in spite of the words and the warnings. And during worst case scenario, not the words and the warnings, we remember Christmas Day a few years ago when there was a tsunami. What was that? It was the Indonesia thing, the tsunami. We saw it. We saw exactly what happens and how horrible it could be. And yet people are like, yeah, I want to be able to see that right up close. Well, right up until I can't see it anymore because I've been swept away. But yeah, they had to put those words there. And of course, why blame them? Because they said, yeah, we got to put those words there. Because remember the beginning of the pandemic when we told people to wash their hands and they went out and bought up all the toilet paper? Yeah, maybe we should protect ourselves by putting that there, because who knows what humans will do. And remember a couple of years ago when there were hurricanes in Florida and one of the official announcements came out to tell the Florida residents, do not shoot at the hurricane? Yeah, this is over, people. We had a good run. I don't know if this is how the dinosaurs went out with stupidity, but I don't think so. I think it was a meteorite that happened with them, not them taking themselves out, which is kind of what we're doing. That's the path we're going on. Other news items that I saw that are of any interest while we're getting towards the tail end of this episode. I believe it was in Texas, the teacher who got arrested for putting her child in the trunk because the child tested positive for COVID, and to protect herself, the teacher, that I have to keep saying that so that also sinks in. The teacher placed her child, I think he was 14, in the trunk of the car to protect her from COVID as they were on their way to get, I think, another test is what it was. But yeah, just let all that sink in. Texas teacher, own child in trunk, positive with COVID to protect her. Not a mask. Could have just thrown on a mask. But, it's Texas. It's taking away my rights. That mask. It's infringing upon my rights. Meanwhile, I will put my own kid in the trunk of a car. We had a great run. I mean, seriously, think about all the things that people did. At this point, we should be rolling a highlight reel, like an in memoriam for people, with the Barbra Streisand Memories song playing. That's what we should be doing right now. I don't have any other words. just the fact that I am almost stupefied by, you think, hey, that's the dumbest thing. Oh, no. Okay. All right. Tomorrow took place. And then something raised the bar or lowered the bar or whatever it is you do with the bar for stupid. My wife said, well, it's a child. Couldn't he have fought back? I'm like, why would they fight? This kid grew up. This is the kid's mom. We all look to our parents as being, hey, they know more. They know this, they know that, when it comes down to it. Because a lot of times, kids have this idea that the parents don't know anything. But when it comes to a very desperate situation or something that is conveyed as being life or death, you will look at the face of every kid, and every kid then will look at their parent, same parent that they said a week earlier, you don't know anything, leave me alone, will go, oh, I need help. What do we do? So in this particular situation, yeah, that kid believes that mom, and the mom is a teacher. That kid, hey, get in the trunk. Okay, I got to get in the trunk because this is what needs to be done. Why would the kid fight? There's no reason for him to fight because it wasn't like he was put in the trunk against his will. The mom said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to put you in the trunk. I'm laughing just because that's the weird plan. And when you hear that from an adult, you don't even question it. You just go, okay, that they must know something. I used to do a joke, which I got to bring back once I remember it, about how things work now versus how things work then, and then being the time that I grew up as a kid. And I said one of the advantages is that you have access to the internet, which has all the information. And for us, some of us, it took years to find out that our parents knew nothing. And a kid today can find out instantly that your parent knows absolutely nothing. So that's a battle for parents. It's a battle we got to fight, that we got to make sure that we get to that internet before they get to the internet to have all our facts straight. But yeah, so that was a interesting story that just leads to my theory that we're doomed. The other thing that I thought was just a weird story was that scientists have taught a goldfish how to drive. I don't know if any of you saw that. Scientists have taught a goldfish how to drive. Goldfish is in a tank. The tank is connected to robotic wheels, and somehow the goldfish, by whichever direction that it goes, can figure out how to drive the tank itself, left or right or forward or backward. And they figure that out because there's not like a pandemic going on, where we could use minds to try and figure out how to get this. Hey, when you guys are done with your goldfish driving project, maybe you could help us get people outside without masks. If it's not too much trouble, maybe you could do that. My other thought was, because they were really impressed on how the goldfish, they go, oh, they're surprisingly good at it. Of course, have you seen goldfish? Big, giant bug eyes. They can see everything. There's no reason they shouldn't be good at driving. They can see everywhere, all around them, those giant eyes. Is that what we're looking for? Is it we're going to try and put the gene mutation into people to get giant eyes so we can do what? I don't even know where you would start. You're a scientist, you're looking around, you're like, I wonder if goldfish can drive. And then someone would say, oh man, you need to be drug tested. That's the only reason that you'd come up with a crazy idea like that. I wonder if goldfish can drive. Why? I don't understand. What's the end game? What are we preparing the goldfish for? To drive. Is this how the driverless cars, the next evolution of driverless cars, is to have a goldfish doing? I don't understand. I have no idea where we're going. That we needed to see whether or not they could drive. I I don't know. I don't get science, and this, by the way, doesn't help. This doesn't help. This doesn't help the idea for people to want to try to be a little smarter in America, because they look at that and go, "Oh, well, this is what smart people are doing? Teaching goldfish to drive? Well, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and stay dumb, because my life is pretty good being dumb. Let me get my gun to shoot at a hurricane." And finally, look at the length of this podcast, huh? I've just been prattling on. I'm so excited. This is what happened. Like I said, this is the new Black Superman, Lamont, with extra consideration, niceness, lengthy podcast. So folks will be happy. Or not. I don't know. We'll see. As promised from last week, the story is, so I took a 23andMe. My wife had given me a 23andMe kit, because my son, Alex, my oldest son, Alex, he had taken one and shared the results with me. This is the episode of Where's My 12%, if you want to figure out how this ties in. And I'm sure if you're a regular listener, you've already heard that one. But I went and took mine and got my results back. And it is very interesting. I would suggest that all black people do this just for the sake to see what goes on. There's a little bit of it that is a little like what I used to call, or I not used to, but what I call movies that occur during February. Because, February is Black History Month, and they start running all these different movies that are black-themed movies. And I always call them Make Black People Angry movies, because that's what they are. They show historical things that took place, and black people are just treated like shit. Just, the way we have been for years in this country. And to see these movies, it just makes you mad. I know they turn out well. There's always a happy ending. There's always triumph over tragedy, but there's a lot of tragedy, and it just makes you angry. All of these movies, Mississippi Burning and Rosewood, all of these just make you angry. 12 Years a Slave, good grief, just anger. And that there's a little bit of that with this. Because let's go over it. First of all, when you see the results that come out, and it says the topic is Sub-Saharan African, and it's 81.7%. Right there you go, wait, what? So I'm not even, that's like a B. As far as a grade of being from Africa, I get a B. 81.7. That's a solid B. Almost borderline B minus. But it is a B. It's in that range of being a B. I am a B grade of African descent. So there's a breakdown of what region of Africa, 70% West African, 11.6 East African, Congolese and Southern East African. And then they even break it down even more as far as under the West African, you're 28.5%, Liberian and Sierra Leonean and Guinean. And so that's all under the category of being West African. And then you see, like I said, the 11.6 of East Africa type of heritage goes. So you do that. That's all the breakdown there. But still, a little unsettling when you find out, it's almost the point of view where you can say, oh, I'm not black. I'm borderline B minus black is how it is when it comes to the African heritage. Then the thing that comes the most interesting, 16.6% European. That's my DNA, is that I'm 16.6% European. So remember in the other episode when I said I was 12% of white privilege? No, I was a little low. I am 16.6% white privilege, which, yeah, things are going to change. Black Superman, things are going to change. Black Superman is 16.6% white, for crying out loud. Under that area, 16.2% British and Irish. So, to all my British and Irish brethren out there, my brethren out there, I'd like to say what's up. What's up to 16.2% of me to my British and Irish folks. Say what's up. Yeah. St. Patrick's Day is going to be off the chain this year. That's what that's going to be. It's going to be crazy when I show up, Faith and Begora. And I'm going to say the part that's British is related to the royal family. I don't have to have proof. I'm just going to show these results. Show up, hang out with the Queen. Oh, if you thought you didn't like Markle, what's her name? The Markle girl? Oh, then you're really not going to enjoy me. This is going to be a version of like Black Panther where the Killmonger shows up at the Royal Palace. That's what's going to happen here. The most interesting part of the entire thing, like all that's interesting, a little shocking, was that I am 1.3% Chinese. Now look, there's a lot of questions here. There's a lot of unanswered questions. I'm 1.3% Chinese. There's nothing about that I suspected. If I can do a callback, I was more prepared to be 1.3% Flamingo. You understand that? Than 1.3% Chinese. So to my Chinese brethren, I say, what's up? Say, how you doing? Say, I'm coming home. 1.3% Chinese. I don't even know how to process that. I'm still trying to process that. That I don't even know how that could happen. But, in regards of it happening, I'd like to make an official statement and say that I am not too happy with the characterization of this pandemic. That it's not my fault or my people's fault. And we need to stop the hate. And I say that as a 1.3% Chinese person. We need to stop the hate. And I don't appreciate it. So, there. I've made my official statement. It is interesting about the 16.3% British and Irish. Because that's nearly, if you want to round up, it is nearly a quarter. Like 16%, if you looked at the body, okay, so you got the four limbs. That's at least an arm up to the elbow. Or from the hand, from the tip of the fingers up to the elbow. That's about 16% of your arm. So that's how white I am. I'm a tip of the finger to arm, elbow white. So that's how I'm calculating it. That I'm about a half, well, that's not half because 50% would be half, but a little more than half, an arm's worth of whiteness. So the people, you keep that in mind when I enter the room. You keep that in mind when I am applying for a loan, because I'll remind you, right here, you see that I'm almost an arm's length of white. So you give me whatever that privilege is what I'm saying. All right, folks, that is it. There's 7 or 8 more days, and then I get to go home. And I'll get to see that crazy kid Olivia and walk her to school, and see that crazy kid Noah, who has his first job. He is healing well, from the wisdom teeth. I believe I've not heard any bad things, and he has messaged me and stuff. So, like I said, he got his first job, and he also got his first check, which he was excited. I'm saying he had to be excited about because he texted me to tell me, and he only texts me to tell me things that he's kind of excited about that he wants to share. So that was kind of cool. Now we got to get him driving because maybe now it'll be something that he wants to stop playing video games and be able to take the lessons for. And, but all is well. So it'll be nice in 8 days to go home, see the family, hang out with the family. Although I will turn around and leave within a couple of days after that, but just for a couple of days because I'm going to hit Colorado Springs. If you guys are out there in Colorado Springs, Looney's at the end of January. I believe it's the 28th and 29th. I will be there, so come on out and see what I'm doing, see what's going on. I thank you, as always, for taking the time to listen, tune in. All things Lamont Ferguson can be found at lamontferguson.com. You know the drill. That's where I hang out. And at some point, I will update that site. I don't think I'm at the point where I need people. My friend, Karen Rontowski, who you can find her, powerful, funny, she's at the point where she needs people. She needs social media people, which is now a legitimate job. If you are a social media organizer, that's a thing. She needs people because she's got a lot of stuff happen on social media. I just need to do my thing because I don't have no need of people. I had to get my followers up. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know how to do that. My goodness, boy, if you follow me on Twitter, good grief, you get those tweets all to yourself. That's what happens there. Those tweets are all to yourself. As I said, lamontferguson.com. Social media handles most of the time is at TV Funny Man. That is IG. That is Twitter. I think that's all I'm on TikTok, and I really don't do anything with TikTok because I'm gonna be honest. I'm old. I really don't kind of get it. I'm not into the reels. I don't understand the point of reels. The whole idea I'm going to mouth and lip sync something that someone else did, and then I'm going to do it, and then I see someone else do it, and then 150,000 people are doing the same thing. I don't get that. So I'm not really on that thing. As I said, and again, I appreciate you for tuning in. I thank you. Do what you can to get the word out. I'd appreciate it. I will be back next Sunday, or you know what? I can't make that promise. I don't know because we've got sea days. So whenever I get to Hawaii, which may be Monday, again, I did not do the research ahead of time. I did not do the research. Hang on a second. Just hold on. Just hold on for a moment. I can tell you when. Yes, on Sunday I get back to. So I'll change it all. You'll have a new episode on Sunday. You will have a new episode next Sunday, and then after that we'll go back to Friday. So look at this. This is the longest one yet. How about that? We're 17 and we're stretching our legs, getting into R-rated movies and prattling on for over an hour. I've talked about a lot. I've covered a lot of things. I went back old school where I covered a lot of things on this episode. Some of the things I may be wrong about, you know. I'm not sure about bedwetting. Okay, I'll agree to that. I don't really know, and I don't know what DEFCON level we're at, so I'm not sure about that. Okay, all right, I'll admit that. But you know, sometimes the old man is right. I'll see you next week.